Christ. You smacked me in the face with it.
I didn't mean to.
Thank you.
Mia, come on.
Well, hello there, people. How we doing? What's going on here? Well, you have stumbled onto a live story reading. Tonight we're going to be concluding the BFG by Roald Dahl. I go live 3 other nights a week reading short stories and all kinds of fun stuff. Stick around. You might enjoy it. I encourage you to stick around. So awesome. Yes, it is. Hey, Wings. Hey, Marcy. How we doing? God, like I turn around, I asked her to get some to get me my to just refill my water because I had to jump on, and I turn and then like all of a sudden freaking water jugs in my face. Hey, Suzanne, welcome back. Deborah, how we doing? Peggy, hello. Amy, hello. Hey, Eddie, how we doing, brother? Well, don't you worry. We're getting to that point. Hey, Brilliant Minds Collective, how we doing? Cat M, how are you? River May, welcome. Hey, Jules. Hey, Queen. Angela, how we doing? I am very happy to be on tonight because holy crap, it's been a day. Hey, Lynn, how are you? Oh, I wish I could say everything was okay, but I could probably show you guys a picture. Hey, Julie over there on the tubes, how you doing? My daughter and I went to go get some stuff this afternoon. Early this afternoon. I hadn't been outside at all in the morning. And I get outside and discover that the passenger side front door window of my car is broken. Somebody busted into my car last night. Didn't steal the car, didn't steal anything in the car because there's nothing in the car, but they did break the window. So, yeah, it's been a day. It has been a day. Yeah, Daniel, it's this is it. I don't live in a rough area. I live in the suburbs, and unfortunately, I have a 2015 Kia Soul, and we all know about the whole Kia fiasco with cars getting stolen. Yeah. I had my last Kia Soul get stolen out of the parking lot at work. I really missed that car. It was nice. It had all the bells and whistles and probably teenagers. I don't know. But this one is a 2015. It was gifted to me because I couldn't afford to get another car. And yeah, it's been broken into twice now. Fortunately, this time the only damage that they did was to the window. Last time they messed up the steering wheel. What kills me is the fact that I have a steering wheel lock. And it's like, yeah, you know, and that, whatever. Oh, trust me, Wings, I've done that a couple times. We were just close to getting our garage cleared out. So my oldest daughter and I worked on it. Worked on getting the garage cleaned up, and the car is now in the garage. So we shall see how well that goes. But for right now, we are here. I just finished recording an audition for an audiobook, and so trying to make the most of today. But it is what it is. I can't complain too much. Hey, Moss Monster over on the tubes. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know if I can or not. It's a book that hasn't been released yet. Yeah, but I did a little research about the author, so I'm pretty confident that that's going to be a decent read. And I like the writing. It doesn't feel forced. It's not, he's not trying to use words that you'd stumble over, words that you're not even sure the author understands themselves. So it was really well put together, and the audition was pretty thorough. I mean, it ended up being, by the time it was done, the audio file is about 35 minutes long. So, and they're usually not that big, so it'll be interesting. Just keep my fingers crossed, and it's an actual paid job instead of a royalty share job, which paid is good. Paid means I get paid. I can't eat royalty share, so. Well, thank you. I keep my fingers crossed and see what happens. I'll add that to my audiobook library. I was working on some new ideas last night for the live stream, for the live shows, and we'll see how that goes. But we'll give it another 2 minutes here and we'll get started. We'll be finishing up the BFG tonight. Hey, Linda, welcome. I was going to pick Friday's read and probably Sunday's read today, but the universe had other plans for me. So, hey, Righto, how are you? Welcome back. But I'm ready to read. I'm ready to go. Gonna hit the ground running tonight. Not gonna let it keep me down. Fortunately, I have full glass coverage, so it's not gonna cost me anything. There's no deductible for it. So, but the worst part is that it can't get fixed until next Wednesday. That was the earlier. Melissa, I am a professional audiobook narrator and voice actor. I've done some commercial stuff. I've done probably not anything anybody's heard, but I've done a handful of audiobooks. I've got one in the works, and I just auditioned for one. So hopefully I'll be getting more work, and you'll be seeing more of me. But yes, I am a professional. Yeah, the driver's side, not the driver's side, but the passenger side front door, they smashed it. Which, it's frustrating more than anything else, because I had to spend time cleaning it up. I got the shop vac out and all that stuff, and then we had to finish cleaning up the garage sooner than we had planned, so I could put the car in there, But well, Paisley, welcome. He is a wonderful author. Hey, Crazy Mama, how are you doing? Yep, we're finishing up the BFG tonight. Storytime Goblins. Okay, it's time to get started. Wow. All right. I was just regaling everybody with my tales of woe today. Crazy Mama, I know how that goes. You'll do it. I believe in you. Seriously. Yeah, this is the second time this car has been busted into, and my previous vehicle got stolen. I don't have very much luck with cars. Hello, how are you? Welcome in. All right. It's one of those things. It happened. It's covered. I look at it this way. It's covered by insurance. Nothing got stolen. Nobody's hurt. Just, I keep moving forward. You are from Vietnam. Okay. All right. We're doing it. We're stopping the live stream for a moment. I keep track of where my viewers are from. I am at 32 countries on all seven continents. And you are my very first from Vietnam. So I truly appreciate you being here. I hope you stick around and follow and be a part of the community. We've got a wonderful group of people here that we welcome everybody from all over the world. I've had Malaysia, the Philippines, Australia is in the house tonight, UK, Norway, Kazakhstan, Trinidad, New Zealand. So, yeah, it's exciting. I love having new people in here, especially from all over the place. So you are very welcome, and I am very glad that you are here and becoming a part of the group. You are now officially a Storytime Goblin. All right. Well, that's really cool. I really do need to get a map to start pinning things into. Maybe even a virtual map. I need to do something. You are very welcome. I appreciate you for being here. All righty. That's the other thing I have to do is figure out how many states in the U.S. because we've had I would bet a lot. We've had Alaska. We've had a lot of the continental United States. Big friendly giant, Rhonda. The big friendly giant. We've had a bunch of different provinces of Canada. We've got Mexico. We've got Mexico's in the house tonight. Yeah. PA is a wonderful place. I am probably a couple hours north of you in Rochester, New York. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I've been told I put people to sleep, but in a good way. All righty then. Well, let's get started. Thank you again, all of you, for the likes and the shares and the follows. It helps grow the community and gets more people watching the stream, which is just wonderful. We are like a hair away from 21,000. It's like just over 100 followers away from 21,000. So crazy. All right. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Storytime with UndeadPapa. Tonight, we conclude the remarkable journey of one little girl and one big, friendly giant. Together, they have crossed worlds, captured dreams, and discovered that courage and kindness can come in the most unexpected forms. And tonight, they're about to pay a very unusual visit to Buckingham Palace, where even a queen may find herself drawn into an extraordinary adventure. So wherever you're listening from, dim the lights, sit back and relax, because Storytime is about to begin. This is the conclusion of The BFG by Roald Dahl. I sound so professional. Can't turn the sun off? Pfft, not with that attitude. All right, one more drink of the ghost. The Queen. Dawn came at last, and the rim of a lemon-colored sun rose up behind the rooftops somewhere behind Victoria Station. A while later, Sophie felt a little of its warmth on her back and was grateful. In the distance, she heard a church clock striking. She counted the strikes. There were 7. She found it almost impossible to believe that she, Sophie, a little orphan of no real importance in the world, was at this moment actually sitting high above the ground on the windowsill of the Queen of England's bedroom, with the Queen herself asleep in there behind the curtain, not more than 5 yards away. The very idea of it was absurd. No one had ever done such a thing before. It was a terrifying thing to be doing. What would happen if the dream didn't work? No one else, least of all the Queen, would believe a word of her story. It seemed possible that nobody had ever woken up to find a small child sitting behind the curtains on his or her windowsill. The Queen was bound to get a shock. Who wouldn't? With all the patience of a small girl who had something important to wait for, Sophie sat motionless on the windowsill. How much longer? She wondered. What time do queens wake up? Faint stirrings and distant sounds came to her from deep inside the belly of the palace. Then, all at once, behind the curtains, she heard the voice of the sleeper in the bedroom. It was a slightly blurred sleep talker's voice. "Oh, no!" it cried out. "No, don't! Someone stop them! Don't let them do it! I can't bear it! Oh, please stop them! It's horrible! Oh, it's ghastly! No, no, no!" Yes, that's my Queen voice. She's having the dream, Sophie told herself. It must be really horrid. I feel so sorry for her, but it has to be done. After that, there were a few moans. Then there was a long silence. Sophie waited. She looked over her shoulder. She was terrified that she would see the man with the dog in the garden staring up at her. But the garden was deserted. A pale summer mist hung over it like smoke. It was an enormous garden, very beautiful, with a large, funny-shaped lake at the far end. There was an island in the lake, and there were ducks swimming in the water. Inside the room beyond the curtain, Sophie suddenly heard what was obviously a knock on the door. She heard the doorknob being turned. She heard someone entering the room. "Good morning, Your Majesty," a woman was saying. It was the voice of an oldish person. There was a pause, and then a slight rattle of china and silver. "Will you have your tray on the bed, ma'am, or on the table?" "Oh, Mary, something awful has just happened." This was a voice Sophie had heard many times on radio and television, especially on Christmas Day. It was a very well-known voice. "Whatever is it, ma'am?" "I've just had the most frightful dream. It was a nightmare. It was awful." "Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. Don't be distressed. You're awake now, and it will go away. It was only a dream, ma'am." "Do you know what I dreamed, Mary? I dreamed that girls and boys were being snatched out of their beds at boarding school and were being eaten by the most ghastly giants. The giants were putting their arms in through the dormitory windows and plucking the children out with their fingers, one lot from a girls' school and another from a boys' school. It was all so vivid. Mary, it was so real." There was a silence. Sophie waited. She was quivering with excitement. But why the silence? Why did the other one, the maid, why didn't she say something? "What on earth's the matter, Mary?" the famous voice was saying. There was another silence. "Mary, you've gone white as a sheet. Are you feeling ill?" There was suddenly a crash and a clatter of crockery which could only have meant that the tray the maid was carrying had fallen out of her hands. "Mary," the famous voice was saying rather sharply, "I think you'd better sit down at once. You look as though you're going faint. You really mustn't take it so hard just because I've had an awful dream. That isn't the reason, ma'am." The maid's voice was quivering terribly. "Then for heaven's sake, what is the reason?" I'm very sorry about the tray, ma'am." "Oh, don't worry about the tray, but what on earth was it that made you drop it? Why did you go white as a ghost all of a sudden?" "You haven't seen the papers yet, ma'am, have you?" "No, what do they say?" Sophie heard the rustling of a newspaper as it was being handed over. "It's like the dream you had in the night, ma'am." "Rubbish, Mary, where is it?" "On the front page, ma'am. It's the big headlines." "Great Scott!" cried the famous voice. 18 girls vanish mysteriously from their bed at Rodian School. 14 boys disappear from Eton. Bones are found underneath dormitory windows." Then there was a pause punctuated by gasps from the famous voice as the newspaper article was clearly being read and digested. "Oh, how ghastly!" the famous voice cried out. "It's absolutely frightful. Bones under the windows. What can have happened? Oh, those poor children." "But, ma'am, don't you see, ma'am?" "See what, Mary?" "Those children were taken away almost exactly as you dreamed it, ma'am." "Not by giants, Mary." "No, ma'am, but the bit about the girls and the boys disappearing from their dormitories. You dreamed it so clearly, and then it actually happened. That's why I came over all queer, ma'am." "I'm going over a bit queer myself, Mary." "It gives me the shakes, ma'am. When something like that happens, it really does." "I don't blame you, Mary." "I shall get you some more breakfast, ma'am, and have this mess cleared up." "No, don't go, Mary. Stay here a moment." Sophie wished she could see into the room, but she didn't dare touch the curtains. The famous voice began to speak again. "I really did dream about those children, Mary. It was clear as crystal." "I know you did, ma'am." "I don't know how giants got into it. That was rubbish." "I shall draw the curtains, ma'am. Then we shall all feel better. It's a lovely day." "Please do." With a swish, the great curtains were pulled aside. The maid screamed. Sophie froze to the window ledge. The Queen, sitting up in her bed with the Times on her lap, glanced up sharply. Now it was her turn to freeze. She didn't scream as the maid had done. Queens are too self-controlled for that. She simply sat there staring, wide-eyed and white-faced, at the small girl who was perched on her windowsill in a nightie. Sophie was petrified. Curiously enough, the Queen looked petrified too. One would have expected her to look surprised, as you or I would have been had we discovered a small girl sitting on our windowsill first thing in the morning. But the Queen didn't look surprised. She looked genuinely frightened. The maid, a middle-aged woman with a funny cap on top of her head, was the first to recover. "What in the name of heaven do you think you're doing in here?" she shouted angrily at Sophie. Sophie looked beseechingly toward the Queen for help. The Queen was still staring at Sophie, gaping at her would be more accurate. Her mouth was slightly open, her eyes were round and wide as two saucers, and the whole of that famous, rather lovely face was filled with disbelief. "Listen here now, young lady. How on earth did you get into this room?" the maid shouted furiously. "I don't believe it," the Queen was murmuring. "I simply don't believe it." "I'll take her out, ma'am, at once," the maid was saying. "No, Mary, no, don't do that." The Queen spoke so sharply that the maid was quite taken aback. She turned and stared at the Queen. What on earth had come over her? It looked as though she was in a state of shock. "Are you all right, ma'am?" the maid was saying. When the Queen spoke again, it was in a strange, strangled sort of whisper. "Tell me, Mary," she said, "tell me quite truthfully, is there really a little girl sitting on my window-sill, or am I still dreaming?" "She's sitting there all right, ma'am, clear as daylight. But heaven only knows how she got there. Your Majesty is certainly not dreaming this time." "But that's exactly what I did dream," the Queen cried out. "I dreamed that as well. I dreamed that there would be a little girl sitting on my window-sill in her nightie, and she would talk to me." The maid, with her hands clasped across her starched white bosom, was staring at her mistress with a look of absolute disbelief on her face. The situation was getting beyond her. She was lost. She had not been trained to cope with this kind of madness. There we go. "Are you real?" the Queen said to Sophie. Yes, Your Majesty," Sophie murmured. "What is your name?" "Sophie, Your Majesty." "And how did you get up to my window-sill? No, don't answer that. Hang on a moment. I dreamed that part of it too. I dreamed that a giant put you there." "He did, Your Majesty," Sophie said. The maid gave a howl of anguish and clasped her hands over her face. "Control yourself, Mary," the Queen said sharply. Then to Sophie she said, "You are not serious about the giant, are you?" "Oh, yes, Your Majesty. He's out there in the garden now." "Is he indeed?" the Queen said. The sheer absurdity of it all was helping her to regain her composure. "So he's in the garden, is he?" she said, smiling a little. "He's a good giant, Your Majesty," Sophie said. "You need not be afraid of him." "I'm delighted to hear it," said the Queen, still smiling. "He's my best friend, Your Majesty." "How nice," the Queen said. "He's a lovely giant, Your Majesty." "I'm quite sure he is," the Queen said. "But why have you and this giant come to see me?" "I think you have dreamed that part of it too, Your Majesty," Sophie said calmly. That pulled the Queen up short. It took the smile right off her face. She certainly had dreamed that part of it. She was remembering now how at the end of her dream it had said that a little girl and a big friendly giant would come and show her how to find the 9 horrible man-eating giants. "But be careful," the Queen said to herself. "Keep very calm, because this is surely not very far from the place where madness begins." "You did dream that, didn't you, Your Majesty?" Sophie said. The maid was out of it now. She just stood there, goggling. "Yes," the Queen murmured. "Yes, now you come to mention it, I did. But how do you know that I dreamed?" "Oh, that's a long story, Your Majesty," Sophie said. "Would you like me to call the big friendly giant?" The Queen looked at the child. The child looked straight back at the Queen, her face open and quite serious. The Queen simply didn't know what to make of it. Was someone pulling her leg? She wondered. "Shall I call him for you?" Sophie went on. "You'll like him very much." The Queen took a deep breath. She was glad no one except her faithful old Mary was here to see what was going on. "Very well," she said. "You may call your giant. No, wait a moment. Mary, pull yourself together and give me my dressing-gown and slippers." The maid did as she was told. The Queen got out of bed and put on a pale pink dressing-gown and slippers. "You may call him now," the Queen said. Sophie turned her head towards the garden and called out, "BFG! Her Majesty the Queen would like to see you." The Queen crossed over to the window and stood beside Sophie. "Come down off that ledge," she said. "You're going to fall backwards any moment." Sophie jumped down into the room and stood beside the Queen at the open window. Mary the maid stood behind them. Her hands were now planted firmly on her hips, and there was a look on her face which seemed to say, "I want no part of this." "I don't see any giant," the Queen said. "Please wait," Sophie said. "Shall I take her away now, ma'am?" the Queen said. The maid said. "Take her downstairs and give her some breakfast," the Queen said. Just then there was a rustle in the bushes beside the lake. Then out he came. 24 feet tall, wearing his black cloak with the grace of a nobleman, still carrying his long trumpet in one hand. He strode magnificently across the palace lawn towards the window. The maid screamed. The Queen gasped. Sophie waved. The BFG took his time. He was very dignified in his approach. When he was close to the window where the three of them were standing, he stopped and made a slow, graceful bow. His head, after he had straightened up again, was almost exactly level with the watchers at the window. "Your Majesty," he said, "I is your humbling servant." He bowed again. Considering she was meeting a giant for the first time in her life, the Queen remained astonishingly self-composed. "We are very pleased to meet you," she said. Down below, a gardener was coming across the lawn with a wheelbarrow. He caught sight of the BFG's legs over to his left. His gaze traveled slowly upward along the entire height of the enormous body. He gripped the handles of the wheelbarrow. He swayed. He tottered. Then he keeled over in the grass in a dead faint. Nobody noticed him. "Oh, Magister!" cried the BFG. "Oh, Queen! Oh, Monarcher! Oh, Golden Sovereign! Oh, Ruler! Oh, Ruler of Straight Lines! Oh, Sultana! I is come here with my little friend Sophie to give you a—" The BFG hesitated, searching for the word. "To give me what? To give me what?" the Queen said. "Assistance," the BFG said, beaming. The Queen looked puzzled. "He sometimes speaks a bit funny, Your Majesty," Sophie said. "He never went to school." "Then we must send him to school," the Queen said. "We have some very good schools in this country." "I has great secrets to tell you, Magister," the BFG said. "I should be delighted to hear them," the Queen said, "but not in my dressing-gown." "Shall you wish to get dressed, ma'am?" the maid said. "Have either of you had breakfast?" the Queen said. "Oh, could we?" Sophie cried. "Oh, please! I haven't had a thing to eat since yesterday." "I was about to have mine," the Queen said, "but Mary dropped it." The maid gulped. I imagine we have more food in the palace, the Queen said, speaking to the BFG. Perhaps you and your little friend would care to join me.
Will it be repulsant snozcumbers, Magister?
The BFG asked. Will it be what? The Queen said.
Stinky snozcumbers, the BFG said.
What is he talking about? The Queen said. Sounds like a rude word to me. She turned to the maid and said, Mary, ask them to serve breakfast for 3 in the... I think it had better be in the ballroom. That has the highest ceiling. To the BFG, she said, I'm afraid you will have to go through the door on your hands and knees. I shall send someone to show you the way. The BFG reached up and lifted Sophie out of the window.
You and I is leaving Her Magister alone to get dressed, he said.
No, leave the little girl here with me, the Queen said. We'll have to find something for her to put on. She can't have breakfast in her nightie. The BFG returned Sophie to the bedroom. Can we have sausages, Your Majesty? Sophie said. And bacon and fried eggs? I think that can be arranged, the Queen answered, smiling. Just wait till you taste it, Sophie said to the BFG. No more snozcumbers from now on. I hope you're all doing well tonight. It is, it's been one hell of a day. But we are here together, and that's all that matters. The Royal Breakfast. There was a frantic scurry among the palace servants when orders were received from the Queen that a 24-foot giant must be seated with Her Majesty in the great ballroom within the next half hour. The butler, an imposing personage named Mr. Tibbs, was in supreme command of all the palace servants, and he did the best he could in the short time available. A man does not rise to become the Queen's butler unless he is gifted with extraordinary ingenuity, adaptability, versatility, dexterity, cunning, sophistication, sagacity, discretion, and a host of other talents that neither you nor I possess. Mr. Tibbs had them all. He was in the butler's pantry, sipping an early morning glass of light ale when the order reached him. In a split second he had made the following calculations in his head. If a normal 6-foot man requires a 3-foot-high table to eat off of, a 24-foot-high giant would require a 12-foot-high table. And if a 6-foot man requires a chair with a 2-foot-high seat, a 24-foot giant would require a chair with an 8-foot-high seat. Everything, Mr. Tibbs told himself, must be multiplied by 4. 2 breakfast eggs must become 8, 4 rashers of bacon must become 16, 3 pieces of toast must become 12, and so on. These calculations about food were immediately passed to Monsieur Papillon, the royal chef. Mr. Tibbs skimmed into the ballroom. Butlers don't walk, they skim over the ground, followed by a whole army of footmen. The footmen all wore knee breeches, and every one of them displayed beautifully rounded calves and ankles. There was no way you can become a royal footman unless you have a well-turned ankle. It is the first thing they look at when you are interviewed. "Push the grand piano into the center of the room," Mr. Tibbs whispered. Butlers never raised their voices above the softest whisper. 4 footmen moved the piano. "Now, fetch a large chest of drawers and put it on top of the piano," Mr. Tibbs whispered. 3 other footmen fetched a very fine Chippendale mahogany chest of drawers and placed it on top of the piano. "That will be his chair," Mr. Tibbs whispered. "It is exactly 8 feet off the ground. Now we shall make a table upon which this gentleman may eat his breakfast in comfort. Fetch me 4 very tall grandfather clocks." There are plenty of them around the palace. Let each clock be 12 feet high. 16 footmen spread out around the palace to find the clocks. They were not easy to carry and required 4 footmen to each one. Place the 4 clocks in a rectangle 8 feet by 4 alongside the grand piano, Mr. Tibbs whispered. The footman did so. Now, fetch me the young prince's ping-pong table, Mr. Tibbs whispered. The ping-pong table was carried in. Unscrew its legs and take them away, Mr. Tibbs whispered. This was done. Now place the ping-pong table on top of the 4 grandfather clocks, Mr. Tibbs whispered. To manage this, the footman had to stand on stepladders. Mr. Tibbs stood back to survey the new furniture. None of it is in the classic style, he whispered, but it will have to do. He gave orders that a damask tablecloth should be draped over the ping-pong table, and in the end it looked really quite elegant after all. At this point, Mr. Tibbs was seen to hesitate. The footmen all stared at him, aghast. Butlers never hesitate, not even when they're faced with the most impossible problems. It is their job to be totally decisive at all times. Knives and forks and spoons, Mr. Tibbs was heard to mutter. Our cutlery will be like pins in his hands. But Mr. Tibbs didn't hesitate for long. Tell the head gardener, he whispered, that I require immediately a brand-new unused garden fork and also a spade. And for a knife we shall use the great sword hanging on the wall in the morning room. But clean the sword well first. It was last used to cut off the head of King Charles I, and there may still be a little dried blood on the blade. When all this had been accomplished, Mr. Tibbs stood near the center of the ballroom, casting his expert butler's eye over the scene. Had he forgotten anything? He certainly had. What about a coffee cup for the large gentleman? Fetch me, he whispered, the biggest jug you can find in the kitchen. A splendid 1-gallon porcelain water jug was brought in and placed on the giant's table beside the garden fork and the garden spade and the great sword. So much for the giant. Mr. Tibbs then had the footman move a small, delicate table and 2 chairs alongside the giant's table. This was for the Queen and for Sophie. The fact that the giant's table and chair towered far above the smaller table simply could not be helped. All these arrangements were only just completed when the Queen, now fully dressed in a trim skirt and cashmere cardigan, entered the ballroom holding Sophie by the hand. A pretty blue dress that had once belonged to one of the princesses had been found for Sophie. And to make her look prettier still, the Queen had picked up a superb sapphire brooch from her dressing table and had pinned it on the left side of Sophie's chest. The big friendly giant followed behind them, but he had an awful job of getting through the door. He had to squeeze himself through on his hands and knees, with 2 footmen pushing him from behind and 2 pulling from the front. But he got through in the end. He removed his black cloak and got rid of his trumpet, and was now wearing his ordinary, simple clothes. As he walked across the ballroom, he had to stop quite a lot to avoid hitting the ceiling, because he failed to notice an enormous crystal chandelier. Crash went his head right into the chandelier. A shower of glass fell upon the poor BFG.
Gung hummers and bogswinkles, he cried. What was that?
It was Louis XV, the Queen said, looking slightly put out. He's never been in a house before, Sophie said. Mr. Tibbs scowled. He directed 4 footmen to clear up the mess. Then, with a disdainful little wave of his hand, he indicated to the giant that he should seat himself on top of the chest of drawers on top of the grand piano.
What a fizz-whizzing, flush-bunkling seat, cried the BFG. I is going to be bug as a snug in a rug up here.
Does he always speak like that? The Queen asked. Quite often, Sophie said. He gets tangled up with his words. The BFG sat down on the chest of drawers piano and gazed in wonder around the great ballroom.
By gumdrops, he cried, what a spliffling wopsy room we's in. It is so gigantuous. I is needing bicirculars and telescopes to see what is going on at the other end.
Footmen arrived carrying silver trays with fried eggs, bacon, sausages, and fried potatoes. At this point, Mr. Tibbs suddenly realized that in order to serve the BFG at all, his 12-foot high grandfather clock table, he would have to climb to the top of one of the tall step ladders. What's more, he must do it balancing a huge warm plate on the palm of one hand and holding a gigantic silver coffee pot in the other. A normal man would have flinched at the thought of it, but good butlers never flinch. Up he went, up, and up, while the Queen and Sophie watched him with great interest. It is possible they were both secretly hoping he would lose his balance and go crashing to the floor, but good butlers never crash. At the top of the ladder, Mr. Tibbs, balancing like an acrobat, poured the BFG's coffee and placed the enormous plate before him. On the plate there were 8 eggs, 12 sausages, 16 rashers of bacon, and a heap of fried potatoes.
What is this, please, your Magister?
The BFG asked, peering down at the Queen. He's never eaten anything except snozcumbers before in his life, Sophie explained. They taste revolting. They don't seem to have stunted his growth, the Queen said. The BFG grabbed the garden spade and scooped up all the eggs, sausages, and bacon and potatoes in one go and shoveled them into his enormous mouth.
By goggles, he cried. This stuff is making snozcumbers taste like squatch wallop.
The Queen glanced up, frowning. Mr. Tibbs looked down at his toes, and his lips moved in silent prayer.
That was only one titchy little bite, the BFG said. Is you having any more of this delunctuous grubble in your cupboard, Magister?
Tibbs, the Queen said, showing true regal hospitality, fetch the gentleman another dozen fried eggs and a dozen sausages. Mr. Tibbs swam out of the room, muttering unspeakable words to himself and wiping his brow with a white handkerchief. The BFG lifted the huge jug and took a swallow.
Ouch!
He cried, blowing a mouthful across the ballroom.
Please, what is this horrible swig pill? I is drinking, Magister.
It's coffee, the Queen told him, freshly roasted.
It's filthsome, the BFG cried out. Where's the frobscottle?
The what? The Queen asked.
Delumptuous, fizzy frobscottle, the BFG answered. Everyone must be drinking frobscottle with breakfast, Magister. Then we can all be whiz-popping happily together afterwards.
What does he mean? The Queen said, frowning at Sophie. What is whiz-popping? Sophie kept a very straight face. BFG, she said, there is no frobscottle here, and whiz-popping is strictly forbidden.
What? Cried the BFG. No frobscottle? No whiz-popping? No glumptious music? No boom-boom-boom?
Absolutely not, Sophie told him firmly. If he wants to sing, please do not stop him, the Queen said. He doesn't want to sing, Sophie said. He said he wants to make music, the Queen went on. Shall I send for a violin? No, Your Majesty, Sophie said. He's only joking. A sly little smile crossed the BFG's face.
Listen,
he said, peering down at Sophie.
If they isn't having any frobscottle here in the palace, I can still go whiz-popping perfectly well without it if I was trying hard enough."
"No!" cried Sophie. "Don't! You're not to. I beg you." Music is very good for the digestion," the Queen said. "When I'm up in Scotland, they play the bagpipes outside the window while I'm eating. Do play something."
"I has Her Magister's permission,"
cried the BFG, and all at once he let fly with a whiz-popper that sounded as though a bomb had exploded in the room. The Queen jumped.
"Whoopee!" cried the BFG. "That's better than bagpipes, is it not, Magister?"
It took the Queen a few seconds to get over the shock. "I prefer the bagpipes," she said, but she couldn't stop herself from smiling. It's good to know the Queen of England likes a good fart joke. During the next 20 minutes, a whole relay of footmen were kept busy hurrying to and from the kitchen, carrying third helpings and fourth helpings and fifth helpings of fried eggs and sausages for the ravenous and delighted BFG. When the BFG had consumed his 22nd fried egg, or 72nd fried egg, Mr. Tibbs sidled up to the Queen. He bent low from the waist and whispered in her ear, "Chef sends his apologies, Your Majesty, and he says he has no more eggs in the kitchen." "What is wrong with the hens?" the Queen said. "Nothing is wrong with the hens, Your Majesty," Mr. Tibbs whispered. "Then tell them to lay more," the Queen said. She looked up at the BFG. "Have some toast and marmalade while you're waiting," she said to him. "The toast is finished," Mr. Tibbs whispered. "And Chef says there is no more bread." "Tell him to bake more," the Queen said. While all this was going on, Sophie had been telling the Queen everything, absolutely everything about her visit to Giant Country. The Queen listened, appalled. When Sophie had finished, the Queen looked up at the BFG, who was sitting high above her. He was now eating a sponge cake. "Big friendly giant," she said. "Last night those man-eating brutes came to England. Can you remember where they went the night before?" The BFG put a whole round of sponge cake into his mouth and chewed it slowly while he thought about this question.
"Yes, Magister," he said. "I do think I is remembering where they said they was going the night before last. They was galloping off to Sweden for the Sweden sour taste."
"Fetch me a telephone," the Queen commanded. Mr. Tibbs placed the instrument on the table. The Queen lifted the receiver. "Get me the King of Sweden," she said. "Good morning," the Queen said. "Is everything all right in Sweden?" "Everything is terrible," the Queen of Sweden answered. "There is panic in the capital. 2 nights ago, 26 of my loyal subjects disappeared. My whole country is in a panic." "Your 26 loyal subjects were all eaten by giants," the Queen said. "Apparently they like the taste of Swedes." "Why do they like the taste of Swedes?" the King asked. "Because the Swedes of Sweden have a sweet and sour taste, so says the BFG," the Queen said. "I don't know what you're talking about," the Queen said, growing testy. The King said, growing testy, "It's hardly a joking matter when one's loyal subjects are being eaten like popcorn." "They've eaten mine as well," the Queen said. "Who's they, for heaven's sake?" the Queen asked. "Giants," the Queen said. "Look here," the King said. "You are feeling all right? Are you feeling all right?" "It's been a rough morning," the Queen said. "First I had a horrid nightmare. Then the maid dropped my breakfast, and now I've got a giant on the piano." "You need a doctor, quick!" cried the King. "I'll be all right," the Queen said. "I must go now. Thanks for your help." She replaced the receiver. "Your BFG is right," the Queen said to Sophie. Those 9 man-eating brutes did go to Sweden." "It's horrible," Sophie said. "Please stop them, Your Majesty." "I'd like to make one more check before I call out the troops," the Queen said. Once more she looked up at the BFG. He was eating donuts now, popping them into his mouth, 10 at a time like peas. "Think hard, BFG," she said. "Where do those horrid giants say they were galloping off to 3 nights ago?" The BFG thought long and hard.
"Ho, ho!" he cried at last. "Yes, I is remembering."
"Where?" asked the Queen.
"One was off to Baghdad,"
the BFG said.
"As they is galloping past my cave, Flesh Lump Eater is waving his arms and shouting at me. I is off to Baghdad, and I is going to Baghdad, and Mum and every one of their 10 children as well."
Once more the Queen lifted the receiver. "Get me the Lord Mayor of Baghdad," she said. "If they don't have a Lord Mayor, get me the next best thing." In 5 seconds a voice was on the line. "Here is the Sultan of Baghdad speaking," the voice said. "Listen, Sultan," the Queen said. "Did anything unpleasant happen in your city 3 nights ago?" "Every night unpleasant things are happening in Baghdad," the Sultan said. "We are chopping off people's heads like you are chopping parsley." "I've never chopped parsley in my life," the Queen said. "I want to know if anyone has disappeared recently in Baghdad." "Only my uncle, Caliph Harun al-Rashid," the Sultan said. "He disappeared from his bed 3 nights ago, together with his wife and 10 children."
"There you is," cried the BFG.
Those wonderful ears enabled him to hear what the Sultan was saying to the Queen on the telephone.
"Flesh Lump Eater did that one. He went off to Baghdad and Mum and all the little kiddies."
The Queen replaced the receiver. "That proves it," she said, looking up at the BFG. "Your story is apparently quite true. Summon the head of the army and the head of the Air Force immediately." Well, thank you guys for all the shares and the views and the likes. 44,000. Guys are awesome. And it's only not even 10 o'clock yet. I appreciate y'all. All right. Okay. The plan. The head of the army and the head of the Air Force stood at attention beside the Queen's breakfast table. Sophie was still in her seat, and the BFG still high up on his crazy perch. It took the Queen only 5 minutes to explain the situation to the military men.
"I knew there was something like this going on, Your Majesty," the head of the army said. "For the last 10 years we've been getting reports from nearly every country in the world about people disappearing mysteriously in the night. We had only one the other day from Panama." "For the hatty taste," cried the BFG. "And one from Wellington and New Zealand," said the head of the army. "For the booty flavor," cried the BFG.
"What is he talking about?" said the head of the Air Force. "Work it out yourself," the Queen said. "What time is it? 10 a.m. In 8 hours those 9 bloodthirsty brutes will be galloping off to gobble up another couple dozen unfortunate wretches. They have to be stopped. We must act fast."
"We'll bomb the blighters," shouted the head of the Air Force. "We'll mow them down with machine guns," cried the head of the army.
"I do not approve of murder," the Queen said.
"But they are murderers themselves," cried
the head of the army. "That is no reason why we should follow their example," the Queen said. 2 wrongs don't make a right."
"And 2 rights don't make a left," cried the BFG.
"We must bring them back alive," the Queen said.
"How?"
the 2 military men said together. "They're all 50 feet high. They'd knock us down like 9 pins."
"Wait," cried the BFG. "Hold your horse flies. Keep your skirts on. I think I has the answer to the maiden's hair."
"Let him speak," the Queen said.
"Every afternoon," the BFG said, "all these giants is in the land of Noddy."
"I can't understand a word this feller says," the head of the army snapped. "Why doesn't he Why doesn't he speak clearly?" "He means the land of Nod," Sophie said. "It's pretty obvious."
"Exactly," cried the BFG. "Every afternoon these giants is lying on the ground, snoozling away in a very deep sleep. They is always resting like that before they is galloping off to guzzle another helping of human beings."
"Go on," they said. "So what?"
"So what you soldiers has to do is creep up to the giants while they is still in the land of Noddy and tie their arms and legs with mighty ropes and wonking chains."
"Brilliant," said the Queen. "That is all very well," said the head of the army, "but how do we get the brutes back here? We can't load 50-foot giants onto trucks, shoot 'em in the spot, that's what I say." The BFG looked down from his lofty perch and said, this time to the head of the Air Force,
"You is having belly poppers, is you not?"
"Is he being rude?" the head of the Air Force said. "He means helicopters," Sophie told him. "Then why doesn't he say so? Of course we have helicopters."
"Whoopsie big belly poppers?"
asked the BFG. "Very big ones," the head of the Air Force said proudly, "but no helicopter is big enough to get a giant like that inside it."
"You do not put him inside," the BFG said. "You sling him underneath the belly of your belly popper and carry him like a porty-do."
"Like a what?" said the head of the Air Force. "Like a torpedo," Sophie said. "Could you do that, Air Marshal?" the Queen asked. "Well, I suppose we could," the head of the Air Force admitted grudgingly. "Then get cracking," the Queen said. "You'll need 9 helicopters, 1 for each giant." Where is this place?" the Air Force man said to the BFG. "I presume you can pinpoint it on a map."
"Pinpoint?" said the BFG. "Map? I is never hearing these words before. Is this Air Force bean talking slush bungle?"
The Air Marshal's face turned the color of a ripe plum. He was not used to being told he was talking slush bungle. The Queen, with her usual admirable tact and good sense, came to the rescue. "BFG," she said, "can you tell us more or less where this giant country is?"
"No, Magister," the BFG said. "Not on my Nelly."
"Then we're jiggered!" cried the Army General. "This is ridiculous!" cried the Air Marshal.
"You must not be giving up so easy," the BFG said calmly. "The first titchy bobstickle you meet and you begin shouting you is being biff-squaggled."
The Army General was no more used to being insulted than the Air Marshal. His face began to swell with fury, and his cheeks blew out until they looked like 2 huge ripe tomatoes. "Your Majesty," he cried, "we are dealing with a lunatic. I want nothing more to do with this ridiculous operation." The Queen, who was used to the tantrums of her senior officials, ignored him completely. "BFG," she said, "would you please tell these rather dim-witted characters exactly what to do?"
"A pleasure, Magister," said the BFG. "Now listen to me carefully, you 2 boot-bogglers."
The military men began to twitch as they stayed put.
"I is not having the foggiest idea where giant country is in the world," the BFG said. "But I is always able to gallop there, and I is galloping forthwards and backwards from giant country every night to blow my dreams into little chidlers' bathrooms. I is knowing the way very well, so all you is having to do is this. Put your 9 big belly hoppers up in the air and let them follow me as I is galloping along."
"How long will this journey take?" the Queen asked.
"If we is leaving now," the BFG said, "we will be arriving just as the giants is having their afternoon snuzzle."
"Splendid," said the Queen. Then, turning to the 2 military men, she said, "Prepare to leave immediately." The head of the army, who was feeling pretty miffed by the whole business, said,
"That is very well, Your Majesty, but what are we going to do with the blighters once we've got them back?"
"Don't worry about that," the Queen told him. "We'll be ready for them. Hurry up now. Off you go." "If it pleases Your Majesty," Sophie said, "I should like to ride with the BFG to keep him company." "Where will you sit?" asked the Queen. "In his ear," Sophie said. "Show them, BFG." The BFG got down from his high chair. He picked Sophie up in his fingers, and he swiveled his huge ear right until it was parallel with the ground. Then he placed Sophie gently inside it. The heads of the army and the Air Force stood goggling. The Queen smiled. "You really are a wonderful giant," she said.
"Magister," the BFG said, "I is wishing to ask a very special thing from you."
"What is it?" the Queen said.
"Could I please bring back here in the belly poppers all my collection of dreams? They is taking me years and years to collect, and I is not wanting to lose them."
"Why, of course," the Queen said. "I wish you a safe journey."
Well, well, well.
How are we all doing this evening? Are we enjoying this story? I know I am. Oh, man. Sweet. Well, I am glad you're enjoying it. Thank you guys all for being here this evening. Just to let you know, I have not decided what I'm going to read on Friday or Sunday, but I'll get there. And I also, at some point in the very near future, this is something that our very own Tessa Vale is actually working on with me, is setting up a Discord server so that we can all hang out and talk and have a little bit more of a community feel, even when we're not on the good old TikToks. One thing I would love to be able to do is exclusive readings that'll just be on the Discord that of stuff that I can't read here, stuff that'll get me in trouble, you know, if you're into that kind of thing. Also, I would love to have movie nights. So we gather up and watch an old movie. I have a vast collection, so we will never run out. Not to worry, Sarah, we got you. We got you. Now, I haven't decided what to call the Discord server yet, but kind of running around like, the Goblin Cave or something like that. So, yeah. Well, TikTok wouldn't be involved, so I'm not worried about it. I don't plan on streaming any video content on TikTok, especially with what's happened recently. But of course, I love TikTok and I love the TikTok shop because who doesn't? It's just awesome. Yeah, Discord is completely separate. One thing I was thinking about doing is partnering with a print-on-demand company and Read to your class. Well, I would love to do that, Cat Rad Smith, but you would have to tell me where you are, and then we decide if it's feasible. But I would love to do that. I mean, that's one thing I would love to do. I'd love to actually read in libraries. I have my youngest daughter is scoping out bookstores, independent bookstores in Liverpool, in the UK. So when I go over there, I will be. Oh, you have Google Meets. Oh. That is a possibility then. I was thinking about partnering with a print-on-demand company that actually will put things right into the TikTok shop, so everything can be right in this ecosystem, but I'll also have other things. So anyway, but that's just in the future. Cat Rad Smith, shoot me a DM. I mean, we can. I'm certainly open to it. I'd have to try and fit it into my schedule, but I'm not opposed to it. Absolutely not. I love reading to kids. To be completely honest with you, one of the reasons I do this is because I don't get to read to my kids anymore because they're 18 and 20. And me reading to them is kind of like, Dad, come on. I don't need you to read me stories anymore. Anyway, let's get back to the story. Capture. The BFG had made thousands of journeys to and from giant country over the years, but he had never in his life made one quite like this, with 9 huge helicopters roaring along over his head. He had never before traveled in broad daylight either. He hadn't dared to, but this was different. Now he was doing it for the Queen of England herself, and he was frightened of nobody. As he galloped across the British Isles with the helicopters thundering above him, people stood and gaped and wondered what on earth was going on. They had never seen the likes of it before, and they never would again. Every now and then, the pilots of the helicopters, would catch a glimpse of a small girl wearing glasses crouching in the giant's right ear, and waving to them. They always waved back. The pilots marveled at the giant's speed and at the way he leapt across wide rivers and over huge houses, but they haven't seen anything yet.
"Be careful to hang on tight," the BFG said. "We is going fast as Frizzlecump."
The BFG changed into his famous top gear, and all at once he began to fly forward as though there were springs in his legs and rockets in his toes. He went skimming over the earth like some magical hop, skip, and jumper with his feet hardly ever touching the ground. As usual, Sophie had to crouch low in the crevice of his ear to save herself from being swept clean away. The 9 pilots in their helicopters suddenly realized they were being left behind. The giant was streaking ahead. They opened their throttles to full speed, and even then they were only just able to keep up. In the leading machine, the head of the Air Force was sitting beside the pilot. He had a world atlas on his knees, and he kept staring first at the atlas, then at the ground below, trying to figure out where they were going. Frantically, he turned the pages of the atlas. "Where in the devil are we going?" "I haven't the faintest idea," the pilot answered. "The Queen's orders were to follow the giant, and that's exactly what I'm doing." The pilot was a young Air Force officer with a bushy mustache. He was very proud of his mustache. He was also quite fearless, and he loved adventure. He thought this was a super adventure. "It's going to be fun going to new places," he said. "New places?" shouted the head of the Air Force. "What the blazes do you mean, new places?" This place we're flying over isn't in the atlas, is it? The pilot said, grinning.
You're darn right it isn't in the atlas, cried the head of the Air Force. We've flown clear off the last page.
I expect that old giant knows where he's going, the young pilot said.
He's leading us to disaster, cried the head of the Air Force.
He was shaking with fear. In the seat behind him sat the head of the Army, who was even more terrified.
You don't mean to tell me we've gone right out of the atlas, he cried.
That's exactly what I'm trying to tell you, cried the Air Force man. Look for yourself. Here's the very last map in the whole flaming atlas. We went right over that an hour ago. He turned the page. As in all atlases, there were 2 completely blank pages at the very end. So now we must be somewhere in here, he said, putting a finger on one of the blank pages.
Where's here?
Cried the head of the Army. The young pilot was still grinning broadly. He said to them, That's why they always put 2 blank pages at the back of the atlas. They're for new countries. You're meant to fill them in yourself. The head of the Air Force glanced down at the ground below. Just look at this God-forsaken desert, he cried. All the trees are dead and all the rocks are blue. The giant has stopped, the young pilot said. He's waving us down. The pilots throttled back the engines, and all 9 helicopters landed safely on the great yellow wasteland. Then each of them lowered a ramp from its belly. 9 jeeps, one from each helicopter, were driven down the ramps. Each jeep contained 6 soldiers and a vast quantity of thick rope and heavy chains.
I don't see any giants, the head of the Army said.
The giants is all out of sight over there, the BFG told him. But if you is taking these slosh-buckling, noisy belly-poppers any closer, all the giants is waking up at once. And then pop goes the weasel. So you want us to proceed by jeep? The head of the Army said. I don't know why I keep leaning into a southern accent all of a sudden. It's just so weird. It does. And what's funny is that the southern accent is actually derived partially from, if you look at the lineage of it, it's actually derived from the English accent. And also, I'm just not good at accents. Switching between them is difficult.
Yes, the BFG said, but you must all be very, very hushy quiet. No roaring motors, no shouting, no mucking about, no piggery-jokery.
The BFG, with Sophie still in his ear, trotted forward, and the jeeps followed close behind. Well, there's still plenty to go, Gingerbread Man. No worries. Suddenly, the most dreadful rumbling noise was heard by everyone. The head of the Army went pea-green in the face.
Those are guns, he cried. There is a battle raging somewhere up ahead of us. Turn back, the lot of you. Let's get out of here. Pig spiffle, the BFG said. Those noises is not guns. Of course they're guns, shouted the head of the Army. I'm a military man, and I know a gun when I hear one. Turn back. Those is just the giants snortling in their sleep, the BFG said. I is a giant myself, and I know a giant snortle when I is hearing one. Are you quite sure? The Army man said anxiously. Positive, the BFG said. Proceed cautiously, the Army man ordered. There it is. They all moved on. Then they saw them. Even at a distance, they were enough to scare the daylights out of the soldiers. But when they got close and saw that what the giants really looked like, they began to sweat with fear. 9 fearsome, ugly, half-naked, 50-foot-long brutes lay sprawled over the ground in various grotesque attitudes of sleep, and the sound of their snoring was indeed like gunfire in a battle. The BFG raised a hand.
All the jeeps stopped. The soldiers got out. "What happens if one of them wakes up?" whispered the head of the army, his knees knocking together from fear.
"If one of them is waking up, he will gobble you down before you can say knack life."
The BFG answered, grinning hugely.
"Me is the only one who won't be gobbled up because giants is never eating giants. Me and Sophie is the only safe ones because I is hiding her if that happens."
The head of the army took several paces to the rear. So did the head of the Air Force. They climbed rather quickly back into their jeep, ready to make a fast getaway if necessary. "Go forward, men," the head of the army said. "Go forward and do your duty bravely." The soldiers crept forward with their ropes and chains. All of them were trembling mightily. No one dared speak a word. The BFG, with Sophie now sitting on the palm of his hand, stood nearby, watching the operation. To give the soldiers their due, they were extremely courageous. There were 6 well-trained, efficient men working on each giant. Within 10 minutes, 8 out of the 9 giants had been trussed up like chickens and were still snoring contentedly. The 9th, who happened to be the flesh lump eater, was causing trouble for the soldiers because he was lying with his right arm tucked underneath his enormous body. It was impossible to tie his wrists and arms together without first getting that arm from underneath him. Very, very cautiously, the 6 soldiers who were working on the flesh lump eater began to pull at the huge arm, trying to release it. The flesh lump eater opened his tiny, piggy black eyes.
"Which one of you foul pastors is wiggling my arm?" he bellowed. "Is that you, rotsome man-hugger?"
Suddenly, he saw the soldiers. In a flash, he was sitting up. He looked around him. He saw more soldiers. With a roar, he leapt to his feet. The soldiers, petrified with fear, froze where they were. They had no weapons with them. The head of the army put his jeep into reverse.
"Human beings," the flesh lumper yelled. "What is all you flush-bunking, rotsome, half-baked beans doing in our country?"
He made a grab at a soldier and swept him up in his hand.
"I's having early suppers today,"
he shouted, holding the poor squirming soldier at arm's length, roaring with laughter. Sophie stood on the palm of the BFG's hand, was watching, horror-struck. "Do something," she cried. "Quick, before he eats him."
"Put that human being down,"
the BFG shouted. The flesh lump eater turned and stared at the BFG.
"What is you doing here with all these grotty twiglets?" he bellowed. "You is making me very suspicious."
The BFG made a rush at the flesh lump eater, but the colossal 54-foot-high giant simply knocked him over with a flick of his free arm. At the same time, Sophie fell off the BFG's palm onto the ground. Her mind was racing. She must do something. She must. She remembered the sapphire brooch the queen had pinned on her chest. Quickly, she undid it.
"I's guzzling you nice and slow,"
the flesh lump eater was saying to the soldier in his hand.
"Then I is guzzling 10 or 20 more of you midgy little maggots down there. You is not getting away from me because I is galloping 50 times faster than you."
Sophie ran up behind the flesh lump eater. She was holding the brooch between her fingers. When she was right up close to the great naked hairy legs, she rammed the 3-inch-long pin of the brooch as hard as she could into the flesh lump eater's right ankle. It went deep into the flesh and stayed there. The giant gave a roar of pain and jumped high in the air. He dropped the soldier and made a grab for his ankle. The BFG, knowing what a coward the flesh lump eater was, saw his chance.
"You was bitten by a snake," he shouted. "I seed it biting you. It was a fearsome, poisonous viper. It was a deadly, dangerous wind-scream viper." "Save your souls," bellowed the flesh lump eater. "Sound the crumpets. I's being bitten by a sumptuous, winsome, wind-scream viper."
He flopped to the ground and sat there, howling his head off and clutching his ankle with both hands. His fingers felt the brooch.
"The teeth of the deadly viper is still sticking into me," he yelled. "I's feeling the teeth sticking into my ankle."
The BFG saw his second chance.
"We must be getting those viper's teeth out at once," he cried. "Otherwise you is deader than duck soup. I's helping you."
BFG knelt down beside the flesh lump eater.
"You must grab your ankle very tight with both hands," he ordered. "That will stop the poisonous juices from the venomsome viper going up your leg into your heart."
The flesh lump eater grabbed his ankle with both hands.
"Now close your eyes and griddle your teeth, and look up to heaven and say your prayers while I is taking out the teeth of the venomsome viper," the BFG said.
The terrified flesh lump eater did exactly as he was told. The BFG signaled for some rope. A soldier rushed it over to him. With both the flesh lump eater's hand gripping his ankle, it was a simple matter for the BFG to tie the ankles and hands together with a tight knot.
"I is pulling out the frightsome viper's teeth,"
the BFG said as he pulled the knot tight.
"Do it quickly," shouted the flesh lump eater, "before I is pisoned to death."
"There we is," said the BFG, standing up. "You can look now." When the flesh lump eater saw that he was trussed up like a turkey, he gave a yell so loud that the heavens trembled. He rolled and wriggled, he fought and he figgled, he squirmed and he squiggled, but there was not a thing he could do. "Well done!" Sophie cried.
"Well done, you," said the BFG, smiling down at the little girl. "You is saving all of our lives."
"Will you please get that brooch back for me?" Sophie said. "It belongs to the Queen." The BFG pulled the beautiful brooch out of the flesh lump eater's ankle. The flesh lump eater howled. The BFG wiped the pin and handed it back to Sophie. Curiously, not one of the other 8 snoring giants had woken up during this schmozzle.
"When you is only sleeping 1 or 2 hours a day, you is sleeping extra doubly deep," the BFG explained.
The head of the Army and the Air Force drove forward once again in their jeep. "Her Majesty will be very pleased with me," the head of the Army said. "I shall proudly get a medal. What's the next move?"
"Now you is all driving over to my cave to load up my bottles of dreams," the BFG said.
"We can't waste time with that rubbish," the Army general said. "It's the Queen's order," Sophie said. She was now back in the BFG's hand. So the 9 jeeps drove across to the BFG's cave, and the great dream-loading operation began. There were 50,000 jars in all to be loaded up. There were more than 5,000 to each jeep, and it took over an hour to finish the job. While the soldiers were loading the dreams, the BFG and Sophie disappeared over the mountains in a mysterious errand. When they came back, the BFG had a sack the size of a small house slung over his shoulder.
"What's that you've got there?"
the head of the Army demanded to know.
"Curiosity is killing the rat," the BFG said.
and he turned away from the silly man. When he was sure that all his precious dreams had been safely loaded onto the jeeps, the BFG said,
"Now we is driving back to the belly poppers and picking up some frightsome giants."
The jeeps drove back to the helicopters. The 50,000 dreams were carried carefully, jar by jar, onto the helicopters. The soldiers climbed back on board, but the BFG and Sophie stayed on the ground. Then they all returned to where the 9 giants were laying. It was a fine sight to see them, these 9 great air machines hovering over the trussed-up giants. It was an even finer sight to see the giants being woken up by the terrific thundering of the engines overhead. And the finest sight of all was to observe those 9 hideous brutes squirming and twisting about on the ground like a mass of mighty snakes as they tried to free themselves from their ropes.
"As flush bunkled,"
roared the flesh lump eater.
"As spits wiggled,"
yelled the child chewer.
"As swag walloped,"
yelled the bone cruncher.
"As goose gruggled,"
howled the man hugger.
"As grun swiped,"
shouted the meat dripper.
"As flung gunkled,"
screamed the maid masher.
"As slap graggered,"
squawked the gizzard gulper.
"As crod swinkled,"
yelled the blood bottler.
"As bop muggered,"
screeched the butcher boy. The 9 giant-carrying helicopters each chose a separate giant and hovered directly over them. Very strong steel hawsers with hooks on the ends of them were lowered from the front and rear of each helicopter. The BFG quickly secured the hooks to the giant's chains, one hook near the legs and the other near the arms. Then, very slowly, the giants were winched up into the air, parallel with the ground. The giants roared and bellowed, but there was nothing they could do. The BFG, with Sophie once more resting comfortably in his ear, set off at a gallop for England. The helicopters all banked around and followed after him. It was an amazing spectacle, those 9 helicopters winging through the sky, each with a trussed-up 50-foot-long giant slung underneath it. The giants themselves must have found it an interesting experience. They never stopped bellowing, but their howls were drowned by the noise of the engines. When it began to get dark, the helicopters switched on powerful searchlights and trained them onto the galloping giant so as to keep him in sight. They flew right through night and arrived in England just as dawn was breaking. Oh, thank you, Oz. I appreciate that. Well, I hope you join us as part of the community. I do this 4 times a week. Feeding time. While the giants were being captured, a tremendous bustle and hustle was going on back home in England. Every earth digger and mechanical contrivance in the country had been mobilized to dig the colossal hole in which the 9 giants were to be permanently imprisoned. 10,000 men and 10,000 machines worked ceaselessly through the night under powerful arc lights. Oh. Hey, come on, give me credit. That was the first one of the night. 10,000 men and 10,000 machines worked ceaselessly through the night under the powerful arc lights, and the massive task was completed only just in time. The hole itself was about twice the size of a football field and 500 feet deep. The walls were perpendicular, and the engineers had calculated that there was no way a giant could escape once he was put in. Even if all 9 giants were to stand on each other's shoulders, the topmost giant would still be some 50 feet from the top of the hole. The 9 giant-carrying helicopters hovered over the massive pit. The giants, one by one, were lowered to the floor. But they were still trussed up, and now came the tricky business of releasing them from their bonds. Nobody wanted to go down and do this, because the moment a giant was freed, he would sure to be turn on the wretched person who had freed him and gobble him up. As usual, the BFG had the answer. Oh, good Lord.
"I has told you before," he said. "Giants is never eating giants, so I is going down and I shall untie them myself before you can say wreck Jobison."
With thousands of fascinated spectators, including the Queen, peering down into the pit, the BFG was lowered on a rope. One by one he released the giants. They stood up, stretched their stiffened limbs, and started leaping about in fury.
"Why is they putting us down here in this grob sludging hole?" they shouted at the BFG. "Because you is guzzling human beings," the BFG answered. "I is always warning you not to do it, and you is never taking the titchiest bit of notice." "In that case," the flesh lumper bellowed, "I think we is guzzling you instead."
The BFG grabbed the dangling rope and was hoisted out of the pit just in time. The great bulging sack he had brought back from him from giant country lay at the top of the pit. "What's in there?" the Queen asked him. The BFG put an arm into the sack and pulled out a giant black and white striped object the size of a man.
"Snozcumber," he cried. "This is the repulsant Snozcumber, Magister, and that is all we is going to give these disgustive giants from now on."
"May I taste it?" the Queen asked.
"Don't, Magister, don't!" cried the BFG. "It is tasting of trog filth and pig squibble."
With that, he tossed the Snozcumber down to the giants below.
"There's your supper," he shouted. "Have a munch on that."
He fished out more Snozcumbers from the sack and threw them down. The giants below howled and cursed. The BFG laughed.
"It serves them right, left, and center," he said.
"What will we feed them on when the Snozcumbers are all used up?" the Queen asked him.
"They is never used up, Magister," the BFG answered, smiling. "I is also bringing in this sack of whole bungle of Snozcumber plants, which I is giving, with your permission, to the royal gardener to put in the soil. Then we is having an everlasting supply of this repulsant food to feed these thirst-blooded giants on."
"What a clever fellow you are," the Queen said. "You are not very well educated, but you really are nobody's fool. I can see that." The author. Every country in the world that had in the past been visited by the foul man-eating giants sent telegrams of congratulations and thanks to the BFG and to Sophie. Kings and presidents and prime ministers and rulers of every kind showered the enormous giant and the little girl with compliments and thank yous, as well as all sorts of medals and presents. The ruler of India sent the BFG a magnificent elephant, the very tilling he had been wishing for all his life. The king of Arabia sent them a camel each. The Lama of Tibet sent them a llama each. Except llamas don't come from Tibet, but that's okay. Wellington sent them 100 pairs of wellies each. Panama sent them beautiful hats. The King of Sweden sent them a barrelful of sweet and sour pork. Jersey sent them pullovers. There was no end to the gratitude of the world. The Queen herself gave orders that a special house with a tremendous high ceilings and enormous doors should be immediately built in the Windsor Great Park next to her own castle, for the BFG to live in. And a pretty little cottage was put up next door for Sophie. The BFG's house was to have a special dream-storing room with hundreds of shelves in it where he could put his beloved bottles. What is more, he was given the title of the Royal Dream Blower. He was allowed to go galloping off to any place in England on any night of the year to blow his splendid fizz-wizards in through the windows of sleeping children. And letters poured into his house by the million from children begging him to pay them a visit. Meanwhile, tourists from all over the globe came flocking to gaze down in wonder at the 9 horrendous man-eating giants in the great pit. They came especially at feeding time when the snozcumbers were being thrown down to them by the keeper, and it was a pleasure to listen to the howls and growls of horror coming up from the pit as the giants began to chew upon the filthiest-tasting vegetable on earth. There was only one disaster. 3 silly men who had drunk too much beer for lunch decided to climb over the high fence surrounding the pit, and of course they fell in. There were yells of delight from the giants below, followed by the crunching of bones. The head keeper immediately put up a big notice on the fence: "It is forbidden to feed the giants." After that, there were no more disasters. The BFG expressed a wish to learn how to speak properly, and Sophie herself, who loved him as she would a father, volunteered to give him lessons every day. She even taught him how to spell and to write sentences, and he turned out to be a splendid, intelligent pupil. In his spare time he read books. He became a tremendous reader. He read all of Charles Dickens, whom he no longer called Dahl's chickens, and all of Shakespeare, and literally thousands of other books. He also started to write essays about his own past life. When Sophie read some of them, she said, "These are very good. I think perhaps one day you could become a real writer."
"Oh, I would love that," cried the BFG. "Do you think I could?"
"I know you could," Sophie said. "Why don't you start by writing a book about you and me?"
"Very well," the BFG said. "I'll give it a try."
So he did. He worked hard on it, and in the end he completed it. Rather shyly, he showed it to the Queen. The Queen read it aloud to her grandchildren. Then the Queen said, "I think we ought to get this book printed properly and published so that other children can read it." This was arranged, but because the BFG was a very modest giant, he wouldn't put his own name on it. He used someone else's name instead. But where, you might ask, is this book that the BFG wrote? It's right here. You've just finished reading it. Oh, wow. So, what vegetable do you guys hate? I am not particularly fond of squash. I'll go first. Oh, I love Brussels sprouts. Good roasted Brussels sprouts. Green peas. My oldest daughter doesn't like green peas. Oh, I love broccoli. I love mushrooms, too. Cabbage. Oh, yeah, I gotta have cabbage right. Green lima beans. Oh, good. You had to clap at the end. That's awesome. What nights do I read? Lima beans. Ooh. Okra. Brussels sprouts. Oh, the hate for Brussels sprouts. So what nights do I read? I read Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. this today was a little bit of an outlier because I had miscalculated my my reading time for the BFG. Usually the Roald Dahl books that we read only take 2 sessions to read. This one, however, I didn't calculate the word count and the reading time correctly. So this one, instead of 2 sessions, took 3. And so we extended into Wednesday night. So Sunday, Monday are usually family-friendly nights where we read children's chapter books. We've read Wind of the Willows, A Wrinkle in Time, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach. We read Charlotte's Web, Bridge to Terabithia, Wizard of Oz. We did a whole week event of that, which was fun. We read it over 4 nights. That was great. The Boxcar Children, yep. Thank you for the reminder. We did the Boxcar Children. We've done A Bear Called Paddington, Winnie the Pooh. So there's a lot of stuff. And then Wednesdays and Fridays are generally reserved for things that are a little darker, more adult, science fiction, horror, thriller type of stuff, and fantasy type of stuff. Usually short stories. Every once in a while, we'll do a 2-night story. We had to do that with 2 Algernon Blackwood stories, The Willows and Wendigo. And they're all fun. I never read anything too scary, though some of my regulars might disagree with me. But this is a fun place to hang out for a couple of hours. Yes, Secret of Nim, the Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim was a wonderful one. So, but if you stick around long enough, you might see me cry. I've done that twice on stream so far. Yes, Lovecraft, Poe, Stephen King, Richard Matheson, Isaac Asimov, Arthur C. Clarke, a whole bunch of authors. Yeah. The Baby Story. Oh, we still remember the Small Assassin by Ray Bradbury. Oh, that's a classic. That is a classic. I have not read Dragon's Eye, so I would definitely put that on my list. Yeah, but we've read some Clive Barker, a lot of pulp authors from the early 20th century, 1920s, 1930s, stuff like that. So those are it's definitely fun. I have not done Abarat. I've read it. I've read all 3 books, but we haven't done that one yet. That would have to reread them in order to determine if we can read them. So, but so there's a lot of stuff that we've read. If you enjoy just sitting and listening to stories, Llama Llama Red Pajama is coming up. Might not be, I would say, I will get back to you on that. I'll let you know by Sunday night. I don't know. I haven't decided for Sunday night. I was going to decide today, but today turned out to be such a pain in the ass. I'll say it. I'm not going to lie. Today was a pain in the ass. For those of you that weren't here earlier when, I will not do picture book night unless Marley is going to be here. Absolutely not. She requested Llama Llama Red Pajama. She is getting Llama Llama Red Pajama. Because I love when kids show up. It's so awesome. It's so awesome. So I thought about it, and it's like one of those things when I get to like, there's been a handful of people that come in and they've got kids with them. And what's cool is when I ask them the kid's name and go the fuck to sleep. I don't know if I would be able to read that one, but I could try. See if I get banned. Anyway, what I think is cool is just being able to say, like when Marley first came here, it was, me being able to speak directly to her. And I I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to say that she's going to remember that the guy reading as remember, he knew my name. He said my name. He was talking to me. And what's going to be cool is seeing her reaction to me saying, "Hey, Marley, Llama Llama Red Pajama, I'm reading this because you wanted it, and be at your request." And I just think that's wonderful. I really do. That is one of those things that I remember. I am actually done reading for tonight. I'm just kind of chatting with you guys. When I have extra time, I like to just kind of hang out and chit chat for a little bit. Oh wow, 135 people. That's a lot for a Wednesday. Holy cow. Awesome. 42. Oh, all right. That's awesome. Oh, we hit 100,000 likes. You guys are awesome. So, you guys want to know something really crazy? I know 100,000 likes is so cool. So, I'm going to tell you guys something about likes. And this is so I track my analytics. I have a spreadsheet, and it tells me if the night is above average or below average, different stats and things I track just to see how the nights are going, and from one night to the next. So with this tonight, from January until now, this will put us at 9.7 million likes. You guys have hit the like button since January 9.7 million freaking times. Poof! It freaking blows my mind. We are gonna in the next couple weeks or so, we're gonna cross 10 million likes. 10 million. I'm just a guy that comes on and reads stories 4 nights a week. We are on the cusp of 21,000 followers. I can't, look, when I started doing this last year, it's been almost a year. When I started doing this last July after I got laid off from my job, which, of course, I haven't found another one yet, I only had 2,300 followers. And now I'm sitting at 21,000 less than a year later. I'm selling merch. I've got a community of people that make inside jokes and take care of each other and believe, like I do, in being kind. What? And I'm grateful to you guys, because I would not be at this point except for you guys. You guys coming in. 42 new people tonight. 42 new people tonight came to this live stream and said, "You know what? I want more of this." And they followed. 32 people tonight came in and said, "I'm going to send this man a gift because he deserves it." Absolutely, Rayto. That's one of the things that I am most proud of with this. Not the expansion, not the potential of things that, I have things in mind. I tend to dream big. I have things in mind that I want to do with this. I want to take this on the road. I want to do, when I go to visit my daughter in Liverpool in the UK, I want to do a live in-person show there and still stream it. But I want to do that. I think that would be fun to be able to meet some of you guys. It's not about the money. It's about community. And you guys are my people, my community. And I love that. I want to be able to, there's so much. I want to be able to partner with companies like Scholastic to partner with me or sponsor me on Sunday and Monday nights. They're one of the biggest publishers of children's books. I would love that. I'm pretty sure they they publish Goosebumps. How cool would it be to have a whole month of sponsorship with Scholastic where I get to read Goosebumps? I mean, come on. And that's something that it's like now, like last year, if you had told me that, I would have said you were crazy. But now it's almost like, what is, what, can I do this? Maybe. I may be able to do it, And just being able to have people come in and tell me that I help them with their anxiety. They fall asleep to listening to my lives. That, they're visually impaired, so they can't read a book. So they get to come in here and listen. I've had people come in and say, I don't like audiobooks, but I will sit here and listen to you read, which is freaking fantastic. And I don't take that stuff lightly. That's important. And the world is crazy. I mean, let's not beat around the bush. The world is freaking crazy right now. I don't care what side of what you're on, and we don't do politics here. That is a hard and fast rule. But we can all admit that things are nuts. So to be able to give people a space to come and listen to a story for a couple of hours and forget all of that craziness, I can't ask for much more than that. I've got a lot of things that I want to do with this. Well, Amy, you're very welcome. And and then, like last year, if somebody told me I would be seen, my live has been seen in 32 countries. I have countries that, not that I haven't heard of, but, countries you don't hear of very often, like frickin' Kazakhstan, for God's sake. I had somebody at Scott Base in Antarctica. Like, my live has been seen on all 7 freaking continents. At this point, somebody from the ISS is going to have to tune in. And if that happens, I don't know what I'm going to do. You will probably see my brain short circuit in real time if that happens. I haven't got my map and pins yet. I'm like trying to think of how I could do it so you guys would actually see it. And what I might do is do a virtual one, and then we can, what did my mom say? So there are 2 people that I credit with my stance on being kind. One is my mother. The other is my grandfather. My grandfather passed back in 2000. And I think of him every day. He was a wonderful man. I always told myself if I could be half the man that he was, it would be a victory. But my mom has always been a kind person. She's always the one to, somebody has something going on. She's the one that sends a whole freaking box of groceries, or money, or, if somebody's doesn't have a place to stay. When we were kids, if somebody didn't have a place to stay or didn't feel safe, they could come and stay at our house. Did she get taken advantage of a couple times? Yeah. But more often than not, she was right. And they were just good people that needed help. And when I show my mother some of the comments that I get, and I talk to her about these lives, and she looks at me. My mother's always been proud of me. But she looks at me with a look of pride at a level that I've never seen before. And I can't tell you how good that feels. My mom's going to be 78 this year. She's not in the best of health. She never really has been. But I'm cherishing every moment I get to have with her. And I know that even when she does pass, the first thing I'm going to do that night is come on here and spend time with you guys. Because as much as other people say that this is their safe space, it's mine too. Because I've seen you guys take care of each other. I've seen you guys step up when somebody has a bad day or has gotten some bad news. And I've seen you guys step up. And that's wonderful. I told my mom the other day that I am not looking to change the world. But maybe I get to change a few hearts. Thank you, VG. I appreciate you, brother. I am not the only child. So we had a bit of a mixed and blended family. As far as myself, they're from my mom's kids from my father. There is myself and my younger sister. And, it's then, of course, from my stepfather's, he's got 2 kids. He's a wonderful person. Called me son before I was ready to call him dad. And now I call him dad because that's who he is. And then my father got married and had 2 sons, so they're my half-brothers. Yeah, I was kind of stuck right in the middle. But, yeah. Life is strange, Never know where it's going to take you. I never thought I would be 51 years old and pursuing voice acting, telling stories online. But here I am. And when I left high school, I was going to go to art school. It is like a box of chocolates. Never know what you're going to get. When I was going anywhere, I was running. Don't get me started. I freaking love that movie. I wanted to go to art school. And, I still, art is still a big part of my life. But when I started doing this, and now that I've been doing this for a little over a year, I feel like this is my place. And even if I have to go back to a 9-to-5 job, which, good God, I just put the last $200 in my checking account. But, so, it's been a year and I haven't found a new job yet. So it's been kind of fun, or not, depending on how you look at it. But, yeah. And I appreciate all of you very much. Very, very much. Yeah, VG, I hear you, man. I think you're just as big of a nerd as I am. But here we are, Here we are. The same age as your son. Morning. I actually finished with the story for tonight. I did the ending of BFG. If you do want to listen to it, it will be up on the tubes tonight. All 3 parts will be up there, and you can follow up. But yeah, I start at 9 p.m. Eastern, and we finish up at 11. So, yeah, Crazy Mama, we got you back. Don't you worry about that. Yeah, I know. But like I said, you can go over to the tubes and watch the replays. And like I said, I'm here 4 nights a week, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Crows and chickens, thank you. And that's the thing. I mean, I've got people here that they like set a schedule to be here with me instead of watching TV or doing all of that. It's just awesome. So, all right, Suzanne, thank you for continuing to tune in. I really appreciate that. I got to put Vietnam on my calendar, on my map now. So cool. All right. Well, I am going to call it. And yeah. So that's where we're going to leave the story tonight. With dreams set free, friendships forever changed, and a little girl who proved that one brave heart can make an enormous difference. Thank you all for spending a little time with me around the fire tonight. I'll be announcing our next stories very soon, and I can't wait to share them with you. And if you enjoy these stories and would like to help support what I do here, please consider becoming a superfan or going over to the UndeadPapa Mercantile and checking out the merch. The link is in my bio. Every bit of support helps keep the campfire lit. Until Friday, please be kind to each other. And be kind to yourself, because kindness matters. And so do you. Good night, everybody. And good night, and thank you over there on the tubes. You guys are just as appreciated.